Thank you very much for the comment, Jesse. Actually, let's go one better than that, and let's have a look at the study and what was found at that graveyard of gladiators at Ephesus. Okay, this is the study that I've been looking at, and you can find it online. And obviously, I always want to give a shout out to the hard work done by academics who look into these kind of things. There's also an image I'll be using. And on that subject, this is obviously not the most pleasant of stuff. So, I'm not going to put anything gruesome up there, but obviously I will be referring to the nasty things of the ancient world. Now, just to start with the basics. This graveyard was discovered at Ephesus, and it's dated to around the turn of the 2nd and 3rd century AD. And it consisted of a number of individuals, 66 of which were identified as male between the ages of 20 and 30. And the average height, in case you're interested, was around 168 centimeters. I think that's around 5'6", which is roughly my height. The fact that we only have 66, and I say only, I mean, it's a fantastic amount because we don't have a great deal about gladiators, but the fact that we only have 66 means that we need to understand this is a small sample. There is a tendency in antiquity, and I've seen this across various formats and contents, of taking very, very small amounts of data and making big pronouncements from them. Yeah, so we can say certain things from this, but at the same time, we need to remember and understand where this came from. And what we can find out from this is that there were, surprisingly large amounts of injuries that healed, and some that obviously didn't heal. So, for example, there were instances where some of the individuals had a broken arm, one of them had an amputated leg, survived. There's also cranial trauma, which is injuries to the head that healed, and you can see where it's healed. So it seems that these gladiators had some decent, or should we say elevated, form of healthcare. The thing we don't have are soft tissue injuries. Okay, you don't have soft tissue injuries so much here. Without getting gruesome, there are certain ways that you can detect soft tissue injuries on skeletons. Won't go into that, but as a general rule, if someone was ended, let's call it that, in the arena through a sword thrust or something similar, if it's not going to affect the skeleton, you're not going to see that on the skeleton. So obviously we don't have that data, but what we do have is very interesting. There were 10 individuals where they had 10 perimortal cranial injuries. And what that effectively means is substantive injuries to the head, which occurred around the time of them passing. So you can make a connection there. And we could read two things into this. The first is that there wasn't a pylon going, if you understand what I mean. If someone was injured substantially, they were left. There wasn't a shoeing, let's call it that, going on. And the second thing is that these actually might be something different. These could be sort of a coup de grace that was delivered. Now, there is a lot of speculation about Charon, about this figure with a hammer wandering around in the arena. This is very tenuous. It's very speculative. The source material for it isn't particularly good, and I won't go into it all here, but let's just say we'll put that to one side. But it's possible that if you were mortally injured in the arena, afterwards there would be a coup de grace, as it were, delivered to quickening your passing. Let's just call it like that. The other thing was that there were 3 instances where there was substantive cranial trauma, most likely caused by a shield bash. We don't often think of shields as having that kind of capacity, but lo and behold, that was an option. And then there's one final thing, which is really interesting, and this is where I'm going to give you an image that is taken from this paper. What we have here, this is zoomed in by the way, are 2 small holes that were made, and they're around 5 centimeters apart from each other. And it's been argued that these represent the holes that would have been made by a trident. The 2 prongs, or 3 prongs rather, having a similar distance. So perhaps this person was caught on the side of the head by someone with a trident. And obviously there was one particular gladiator who had a trident. Just going then back to some final comments about all of this, because again, it's a bit of a long video, but there was a lot to talk about. In terms of the diet, I know I mentioned this in the previous video. It seems that this was largely from what was detected within the skeletons. This was largely pulses, barley, that kind of a thing, which kind of fits into what we expect generally with gladiators. There was also that strontium. There was double the content of strontium in the skeleton that we think would normally be there. And that was probably because of that drink that, again, I mentioned, made of ash, which probably benefited the gladiators in terms of giving them higher calcium content, meaning their bones would heal quicker or just generally be stronger. And there was another thing, and that was muscle attachment. So you can actually see on a skeleton what the kind of muscle attachments were like, and these were quite strong, it seems, in the arms and legs. So again, there's the idea that these people were training hard. They had quite well built muscles, but with the caveat that these weren't mini bodybuilders running around, that they would have been probably on the leaner side of things. And in fact, I know there's reference that Gallen made to say that gladiators could be a bit flabby. But in any case, these were strong guys, they were fit guys, but at the same time, they had to be. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible thing they had to do. But anyway, well, I hope that helps. And again, thanks for sticking for a longer video. And if you've got any questions or comments, just ask.